This next book that I'm going to read to you is also a true story, but it's kind of a small book, so I'm going to read it up close so that you can see everything. It's called Ruby Bridges Goes to School, My True Story by Ruby Bridges. So this is Ruby Bridges, and this story takes place a while ago. And since it's Black History Month, I thought I would tell you a little bit about Ruby Bridges and how brave she was. This is a good story. This says, "We want white tenants in our white community." A long time ago, some people thought that black people and white people should not be friends. In some places, black people were not allowed to live in the same neighborhoods as white people. And this little boy is actually holding a sign that said, "We won't go to school with Negroes," which is what they would call somebody who had dark skin. And that's they didn't treat people fairly at all. Horrible. Booker T, Washington. And then this sign right here says white only. That means only if you have white skin can you go into this store. In some places, black people were not allowed to eat in the same restaurants as white people, which is ridiculous when you think of it now, but that's the way it was then. I'm glad things changed. And in some places, black children and white children could not go to the same schools. This is called segregation. So if you had dark skin, you had to go to a certain school, and if you had lighter skin, you had to go to a certain school, and you couldn't mix. The United States government said segregation is wrong. People should live where they want. People should eat where they want. Children should go to school where they want. Look how cute she is. That's Ruby Bridges. My name is Ruby Bridges. In 1960, I went to kindergarten in a school for black children. I liked my school, I liked my teacher, I liked my friends. So that's Ruby Bridges, and she was in kindergarten right there. But there was a school for white children even closer to my house than the school for black children. It was the William Fratz Elementary School. The government said Ruby Bridges should be allowed to go to the William Fratz School. Okay, so they were changing the laws. They said, you know what? This segregation is bad. We can't separate children by the color of their skin. So if this school is closer to your house, then that's the school you go to. All right. Even though she had started kindergarten in a different school. So in 1961, I was in first grade. My mother took me to the Fratz School. Marshals came with us to make sure that we were safe. Marshals are like police officers, kind of. Had to walk her to school, this poor little girl, because she's starting to go to a school where everybody has white skin and she doesn't. So they were worried about her, that maybe people wouldn't be nice to her. Some people did not want a black child to go to the white school. They're holding up these signs, "We don't want you to go here." They stood near the school. They yelled at me to go away. Can you imagine how scary that would be if you were Ruby and you were going to a school where some kids, not all the kids, but some kids didn't want you to go there? And even some adults didn't want you to go there? There's the teacher. Parents took their children out of the school. I was alone with my teacher, Miss Henry. So some of the parents said, you know what, if this little girl with the dark skin is gonna be there, I'm not gonna send my kid to school then. So the teacher was the teacher just for Ruby then. She probably learned a lot. I loved Miss Henry, and Miss Henry loved me. I was a very good student. I learned math, I learned how to read, but I wished the children would come back. Because it's probably pretty lonely if it's just you and your teacher. You probably want to just play with the other kids too, right? Months and months passed. Then one day, children began to come back to school. At last, I had friends to play with. I was very, very happy. There she is. Now that some of the kids came back, she's just playing with them, because kids don't do that. Many people have read about me in newspapers and books. A famous writer, John Steinbeck, wrote about me. He wrote that I was very brave. This is the writer that wrote about her and said she was brave. A First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, wrote a letter to me. The letter told me that I was a good American. Norman Rockwell was an artist who painted a picture of me. The painting has become very famous. So all kinds of people are telling her how brave she is just for doing that. Now I'm grown up. I'm married, I have children. One day, Miss Henry and I were both asked to be on a TV show. That was the first time we had seen each other in many years. Now we talk to each other often. That was her teacher. Now black children and white children can go to the same schools. I like to visit schools. I tell my story to children. I tell children that black people and white people can be friends. Of course they can. And most important, I tell children to be kind to each other. And this is something that I like to tell to my students. Every day that you guys are here in the classroom, I'll be telling you to be kind to each other, because that is so, so, so important, to be kind to one another.